A frozen highway in eastern Ukraine. 1930 hours during severe winter storm. Temperature -15 Celsius with wind gusts to 40 kilometers per hour. Visibility near zero through falling snow and ice. A Russian supply convoy carrying critical supplies attempting to reach frontline positions before weather made movement impossible. 47 vehicles stretched across 3 kilometers of snow-covered highway. 3 fuel tankers carrying combined 78,000 liters of diesel and gasoline. 7 ammunition trucks transporting 400 tons of artillery shells and small arms rounds. 4 mobile command posts with encrypted communications equipment. 2 mobile repair workshops. 8 armored personnel carriers providing security. 23 supply trucks carrying food equipment and spare parts. The convoy represented 3 weeks of sustained operations for units at the front. Departure had been delayed twice due to weather, but command ordered movement despite deteriorating conditions because frontline shortages were critical. Ukrainian reconnaissance had been tracking convoy for 2 days using satellite imagery, signals intelligence, and human sources. Pattern analysis identified departure time, route, composition, security measures. Intelligence assessment determined convoy would be most vulnerable during 15-kilometer section, where highway narrowed between steep embankments with terrain preventing cross-country movement. Strike plan was developed using demolition charges to seal both ends of kill zone, thermal imaging to target through storm, FPV drones carrying shaped charges, and pre-planned artillery fire missions. 4 hours and 17 minutes after trap was sprung, 43 of 47 vehicles would be destroyed or abandoned. 627 personnel would be dead from explosions, burns, hypothermia, or fragmentation. 183 would be wounded and captured. 74 would escape but suffer frostbite and exposure injuries. Supplies worth $83 million would be consumed by fire. The convoy that represented months of logistics preparation would be eliminated in single night, creating immediate operational collapse at frontline positions, depending on these supplies. This happened days ago during winter storm that forecasters predicted would be moderate but intensified to blizzard conditions. Destroyed convoy remains as blackened scar across frozen landscape. Strategic implications of logistics vulnerability continue affecting Russian supply operations. This is what occurred during those 4 hours when storm became weapon. Modern warfare has made logistics networks primary targets because destroying supplies creates operational effects exceeding destruction of combat units. Tank battalion can be replaced in months with new vehicles and trained crews. Destroyed supply convoy creates immediate degradation. Units without fuel cannot maneuver. Units without ammunition cannot fight. Units without food and medical supplies lose effectiveness, regardless of equipment or motivation. Supply line interdiction creates cascading effects through entire force structure. Thermal imaging revolutionized night and adverse weather operations. Traditional visual optics require light to function. Darkness or obscured visibility from weather creates blindness. Thermal imaging detects infrared radiation emitted by warm objects displaying temperature differences as visible images. Human bodies at 37 degrees Celsius show clearly against frozen landscape at -15 degrees. Vehicle engines show as bright signatures. Thermal imaging transforms blizzard from obstacle into advantage. Storm blinds enemy, while thermal systems see clearly. FPV drones combined with thermal guidance created precision strike capability in conditions previously considered non-operational. First-person view drones are small quadcopters piloted using video feed displayed in operators' goggles, creating immersive flight experience. Operators trained to fly through windows, under bridges, around obstacles with precision impossible using traditional remote control. Addition of thermal cameras allows operation in darkness or obscured conditions. Shaped charge warheads penetrate armored vehicles. Result is precision-guided munition costing hundreds of dollars with effectiveness, rivaling missiles costing hundreds of thousands. Ukrainian forces had prepared ambush site 2 weeks before convoy movement. Engineering team worked at night placing demolition charges beneath road surface at 2 locations. Forward position, where road entered narrow section. Rear position, 3 kilometers back where road exited. Charges were buried with remote detonation system allowing activation when convoy was positioned correctly. Artillery survey teams calculated fire missions for entire kill zone with coordinates pre-programmed, allowing immediate fire without adjustment. Drone operator positions were established at 3 sites surrounding area with thermal imaging equipment in charging facilities. Convoy departed staging area at 1400 hours during light snow. Weather forecast predicted conditions would improve, allowing arrival at destination before nightfall. Convoy maintained 40 km/h speed with vehicles spaced 50 meters apart. Security consisted of 2 BTR armored personnel carriers at front and rear, with infantry distributed throughout convoy. Plan was straightforward movement along established supply route that had been used successfully for months. At 16:30 hours, weather deteriorated rapidly. Snow increased to blizzard conditions with wind gusts creating whiteout visibility. Convoy speed dropped to 20 km/h with spacing collapsing as drivers struggled to maintain visual contact with vehicle ahead. Radio communications became intermittent as storm interfered with signals. Officers debated halting to wait for weather improvement, but command ordered continuation because delays would make supply shortages critical. Ukrainian reconnaissance drones tracked convoy despite weather using thermal imaging. Updates were transmitted to ambush command posts showing convoy progress, vehicle spacing, speed, formation integrity. As convoy approached kill zone at 19:30 hours, engineering team armed demolition charges. Artillery batteries loaded and aimed guns. Drone operators launched first wave of FPV aircraft. Everything was prepared and synchronized. At 1938, lead BTR crossed demolition point. Command was given and charges detonated, creating crater 8 meters wide and 4 meters deep. Road surface collapsed, dropping lead vehicles into hole, while following vehicles collided. Simultaneously at rear of convoy, second demolition trapped trailing elements. In 30 seconds, 47 vehicles were sealed in 3-kilometer corridor with impassable obstacles forward and rear, steep embankments on sides, and blizzard preventing visual coordination. Radio chatter exploded as convoy personnel attempted to assess situation. Officers demanded status reports. Drivers asked for instructions. Convoy commander tried establishing coherent picture, but communication was fragmented and chaotic. Some crews understood this was deliberate ambush, not accident. Understanding came too late. At 1941, first FPV drones arrived over kill zone. Thermal imaging displayed convoy clearly despite storm, engines glowing orange, personnel showing as white signatures against black frozen background. Drone operators worked in pairs with one flying and one confirming targets and coordinating. Priority targets were fuel tankers. Destroy them first to create psychological impact and physical destruction. First fuel tanker was struck at 1943. Shaped charge penetrated tank wall, detonating fuel-air mixture inside. Explosion was catastrophic, producing fireball visible 5 kilometers away despite storm. Shockwave shattered windows in vehicles 50 meters distant. Burning fuel sprayed across highway and adjacent vehicles, igniting secondary fires. Temperature of burning diesel exceeds 1,000 degrees Celsius, consuming everything combustible. Second and third tankers were struck within 90 seconds. Each explosion fed chaos of previous, creating overlapping zones of fire across highway. Crews evacuating vehicles were caught in flames. Personnel attempting to organize defense were disrupted by heat and smoke. Burning fuel flowing across ice created rivers of fire that storm couldn't extinguish. Ammunition trucks were targeted next. Intelligence had identified them before convoy departed. Distinctive cargo profiles visible on thermal imaging and satellite imagery. When first ammunition truck was hit, secondary explosion consumed vehicle and damaged 3 others nearby. Artillery shells detonated in sequence, launching shrapnel in all directions. Mortar rounds cooked off randomly. Small arms ammunition created continuous popping sounds like sustained gunfire. Chain reaction continued for 18 minutes as each ammunition truck exploded, triggering more secondary detonations. Some shells were launched intact by explosions landing across kill zone and detonating on impact. Others partially detonated, scattering burning propellant. The convoy was being destroyed not only by enemy action, but by its own cargo. Personnel abandoned vehicles seeking cover in embankments. Infantry attempted establishing defensive positions with machine guns, but thermal imaging revealed them clearly. Drone strikes targeted personnel, concentrations disrupting organization. Officers trying to coordinate response in command vehicles became priority targets. Thermal signatures showed multiple bodies inside warm vehicles. Single strikes eliminated command elements, fracturing convoys' ability to respond coherently. At 20:05, Ukrainian artillery joined engagement. Fire missions were pre-calculated with coordinates locked before convoy arrived. Guns didn't need visual contact. Drones provided targeting and adjustment. 155mm shells fell through storm with GPS guidance, landing within meters of intended impact points. Counter-battery radar was ineffective in storm conditions, and Convoy had no organic artillery for return fire. Artillery fire was systematic, not random. First salvo targeted vehicles at specific intervals, breaking convoy into isolated segments, preventing mutual support. Second salvo targeted remaining command vehicles, eliminating coordination capability. Third salvo created area denial, preventing movement. Any vehicle attempting to move had to cross impact zones. Any personnel attempting evacuation had to run through falling shells. Some crews attempted turning vehicles to escape, but road was narrow and icy. Trucks attempting multi-point turns slid, blocking entire highway width. Vehicles behind were now trapped more thoroughly. Drivers abandoned vehicles and fled on foot into storm. Others tried driving through embankments into fields. Gambling cross-country movement was preferable to remaining in kill zone. First vehicle attempting this bogged in meter-deep snow drifts within 5 meters. Wheels spun uselessly, digging deeper. Crew abandoned vehicle and attempted continuing on foot. They made 30 meters before hypothermia forced them to seek non-existent shelter. By 2200 hours, 31 vehicles were burning. Fires created their own weather. Superheated air rose, meeting Arctic cold, producing vortices and unpredictable wind, spreading flames further. Heat from fires could be felt hundreds of meters away. Snow falling into flames turned instantly to steam. Smoke spread horizontally in wind, creating toxic fog, burning lungs and eyes. Some vehicles remained physically undamaged but were operationally destroyed. Paint blistered from heat, tires melted, fuel lines ruptured from thermal stress. Electrical systems failed. Ammunition inside cooked off from external temperatures. The convoy was disintegrating from cascading effects of inferno consuming it. Personnel fleeing on foot faced impossible conditions. Temperature -15°C with wind chill reaching -30. Human body loses heat 25 times faster in wet conditions. Snow soaked through uniforms within minutes. Sweat from exertion turned to ice against skin. Core body temperature began dropping immediately, creating hypothermia progression. First symptom is violent, uncontrollable shivering as body attempts generating heat through muscle activity. Then confusion and disorientation. Higher brain functions degrade as core temperature drops. Poor decision-making follows. Soldiers removed gloves because hands felt burning hot, a paradoxical symptom of severe hypothermia. They unbuttoned coats. They sat to rest and never stood again. Some soldiers died from injuries that would be survivable with medical care, but in blizzard with medical vehicles destroyed and medics scattered, even moderate wounds became fatal. Soldier with severed artery bled out while comrades watched helplessly. Another with crush injuries from vehicle collision lingered hours before shock and cold killed him. Those with burns from fuel fires suffered agonizing deaths. Cold prevented shock from developing, maintaining consciousness through extreme pain. Search teams days later found bodies in positions suggesting complete disorientation. Some had dug shallow depressions attempting shelter. Others were found still walking frozen mid-stride. A few were curled fetal, trying to conserve warmth. The blizzard killed as many as explosions and fire combined. At 23:55, attack phase concluded. Drone operators recalled remaining aircraft. Artillery ceased fire. Forward observers confirmed kill zone status. 43 vehicles destroyed or abandoned. Multiple secondary fires still burning. No organized resistance remaining. Mission was complete. At 06:15, dawn broke and storm cleared. Reconnaissance drones surveyed aftermath in cold morning light. 3-kilometer highway section was obliterated. Road surface destroyed by craters. Vehicles reduced to burned hulks. Equipment scattered across hundreds of meters. 4 vehicles had somehow escaped during initial chaos, probably in first minutes before kill zone was sealed. Remaining 43 were total losses. Casualty assessment took weeks because situation was so chaotic. 627 confirmed dead from explosions, burns, hypothermia, fragmentation, or exposure. 183 wounded were captured when Ukrainian forces secured kill zone at dawn. 74 escaped on foot but suffered severe frostbite requiring amputations. Many bodies were never recovered, consumed by fires burning hot enough to melt pavement, buried in snowdrifts emerging only during spring thaw, or scattered by explosions beyond recognition. Psychological casualties were harder to quantify. Survivors were shattered mentally. Drivers who watched friends burn, officers who gave orders resulting in deaths, soldiers who abandoned wounded comrades to save themselves. Guilt and trauma from helplessly witnessing mass death would affect survivors for life. Strategic consequences rippled through entire operational area. Frontline units expecting supplies never received them. Without fuel, armored vehicles became stationary positions. Without ammunition, artillery fell silent. Without food and medical supplies, readiness collapsed. Operations dependent on convoy were canceled or drastically scaled back. Replacement convoys had to be assembled, drawing resources from other sectors, creating shortages elsewhere. Logistics network operates as closed system. Resources used replacing destroyed convoy couldn't be used for other missions. Every truck sent as replacement couldn't move supplies from different depot. Every escort vehicle protecting replacement convoy couldn't protect different convoy. Supply procedures changed dramatically after attack. Convoys moved only in clear weather, delaying shipments and creating backlogs. Routes were altered using longer paths with worse terrain, consuming more fuel and time. Security requirements doubled or tripled. Convoys previously escorted by 2 armored vehicles now required 6+ infantry platoons and anti-drone systems. Overhead for moving supplies increased enormously, reducing effective logistics capacity. Psychological impact affected entire logistics system. Every driver feared every storm. Every logistics officer questioned every route. Every commander knew next convoy could end identically. Paranoia was justified but operationally debilitating. Risk assessment became so conservative that necessary supply runs were delayed or canceled from excessive caution. The ambush demonstrated integration of multiple systems, creating effects exceeding individual capabilities. Reconnaissance identified target weeks before movement. Intelligence confirmed importance and composition. Engineering prepared trap with precision. Weather provided cover. Drones executed with mechanical efficiency. Artillery delivered area denial. Each element alone was dangerous. Combined, they were unstoppable. Technology made it possible, but planning and patience were equally critical. Ukrainian forces could have attacked convoy multiple times before. Previous movements along same route offered opportunities, but they waited for weather that would blind enemy while enhancing their own capabilities. They waited for route section channeling convoy into perfect kill zone. They waited until preparation was complete and conditions were optimal. Weather became weapon, not obstacle. Storm created zero visibility for convoy, while thermal imaging provided clear targeting for Ukrainian forces. Extreme cold turned escape attempts into death sentences. Ice made movement treacherous and prevented fire suppression. Blizzard multiplied effectiveness of every weapon system. Convoy had no choice but to move despite conditions. Supply lines cannot stop for weather. Frontline units need fuel, ammunition, food regardless of storms. If convoys moved only in perfect weather, operations would collapse within days. So they accepted risk gambling. Ukrainian forces couldn't operate in blizzard. Gamble failed catastrophically. Modern military doctrine says armies move on logistics, destroy supply lines, and frontline crumbles regardless of troop motivation or equipment as sophistication. This convoy was routine logistics mission, same route used successfully for months, experienced crews. Adequate security for normal threat environment. But routine became catastrophic when preparation met opportunity and technology met weather. No dramatic tank battles. No heroic last stands. Just methodical destruction of logistics convoy in 4 hours during blizzard. Reconnaissance, engineering, drones, artillery, weather, integrated perfectly to create total kill zone with no escape and no effective response. 47 vehicles entered storm expecting to reach front lines. Instead, they found trap where every advantage they possessed meant nothing. Numbers didn't matter. Being trapped prevented mutual support. Armor didn't matter. Shaped charges penetrated anything. Weapons didn't matter. Targets were invisible in storm. Training didn't matter. No training prepares for being burned alive or freezing to death while trying to escape inferno. The storm that day was natural. The slaughter was not. Every element was planned and executed with precision, from reconnaissance tracking convoy days before movement, to intelligence confirming cargo and importance, to engineering sealing road at both ends, to drone operators destroying vehicles methodically, to artillery crews firing on coordinates they couldn't see. Each piece fit together perfectly. When dawn came and storm cleared, result was testament to modern warfare's efficiency. 43 vehicles reduced to scrap, 627 dead, $83 million of equipment and supplies destroyed, 3 weeks of frontline operations eliminated, all in 4 hours on frozen road in blizzard. This is what happens when reconnaissance meets engineering, when drones meet thermal imaging, when artillery meets GPS guidance, when tactics meet weather, when patience meets opportunity. Result is mathematical destruction with no room for courage or heroism to matter. The storm that day was natural. The slaughter was not.